Welcome to Season 2 of Common Time Podcast. I'm David Clemmer.
And I'm John Pasquale.
And we're back to inspire and empower music educators with practical advice, thought-provoking conversations, and stories from some of the best in the business. Let's dive into another incredible episode. Our guest today is Clark Hibbs from Houston, Texas. Welcome, Clark.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for this.
We are excited to have you. So for our listeners, Clark and his wife, Rachel, they own and operate Yellow Rose Fitness here in Houston, Texas. And Clark has a degree in music education. He's a fantastic trumpet player. He marched Santa Clara Vanguard with John and I. But he pivoted into fitness and health, and I am excited to have him on because it's something that we deal with in our industry, maybe not enough. So let's get it started, John.
Indeed. Hi, Clark. How are you?
I'm doing so great. So good to see you.
Man, also you as well. You know, this topic, I think, is so important for all of us because many people don't really think about it until it's too late. So that's why I think being able to talk about this openly and candidly is going to be extremely helpful for everybody. So I'm just going to start by saying that we as band directors often have long days that are filled with rehearsals and performances and admin and all kinds of stuff. So what are some realistic strategies to fit in effective workouts during a packed schedule, like either before or after, that can help people bring energy and focus to their life, basically?
Totally. And I think that's not just a band director question. I think that's just a human question. I mean, we are all going to benefit from strength training, from fitness, from whatever kind of training you're going to do. The benefits of it are they so far outweigh any sort of cons as far as stress it might put on your schedule or anything like that. It is worth that investment no matter what. The word I've been using a ton for the past 5+ years with all my people since COVID, basically since 2020, is intentionality. And having the intentionality and the identity that you are going to work out, this is something that you are going to do, it is something that you are going to embrace, will immediately knock down any sort of barriers that you might have set up yourself, right? We all have these narratives that we like to tell ourselves, right? I'm too busy, or I'm not a fitness person, or my schedule's too tight, or I don't have enough time. And embracing that it's fine that workouts don't have to be this 2+ hour thing. 10 minutes is okay, 30 minutes is okay, an hour is okay, 2 hours is okay. Whatever you can fit in is really, really good. It's actually amazing just to kind of keep that momentum rolling. So intentionality is highly, highly important. I think if you're a band director, there's no way that you are not on Sunday looking at your schedule for the week, right? You're going, oh my God, what am I doing this week? And how much am I doing this week? And then finding and being very, very intentional about where you are going to put those workouts is really, really important, right? I like to say a lot that workouts should be meetings with your boss for the general population. But if I'm going to talk to band directors, I'd say this is scheduling your clinicians that have a very tight schedule, right? You're not going to cancel on those things. You're not going to say, oh, sorry, my schedule got a little flubbed up, or I'm not really feeling it today, so I'm not going to do it. No, treat your workouts like they are the greatest clinician that you've ever had coming into your band hall. And if you do that, you are not going to skip the workout, no matter if it's a 10-minute thing before you go to school, if it's a 20-minute thing in one of your off periods, if it's a 30-minute thing after rehearsal, schedule it and you will get it done. And having that intentionality and identity is massively important. And it's honestly the ultimate cheat code. And we could end it right there because that's really, that's all you need.
I love that because we would never cancel on a clinician. It's that important.
No,
because we wouldn't let them down. But by not working out, we're letting ourselves down ultimately.
Well, and you're letting yourself down in the present, but more importantly, you're letting yourself down in the future.
Yeah.
Right. Because everyone, whenever they're on their deathbed going, I wonder what I could have been doing to keep this life going, exercise is the answer. And I know that sounds so trite. I know that sounds so trite coming from the guy who's probably going to sell you fitness at some point, but it really is the answer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're going to dig into some of the specifics, I think, a little bit. We'll see where this goes, but I'm curious from a mental standpoint as well, because teaching and directing ensemble, the number of students, the changes, the parents, all the things that are happening on a daily basis can be mentally exhausting. And I've heard, fitness can help manage stress, improve mental clarity, all those things. I'm curious, are there exercises that you recommend for a busy educator, like knowing this is what my day is going to look like?
Yeah.
And if I'm able to work that in, how is it going to affect all of this stuff going in my brain?
1000%. I think the exercise that you should be doing is the exercise of scheduling in your workouts to do, because while there might be more beneficial exercises for X person who has Y thing that they're working on, working out is amazing and it's going to benefit you 1000%. It doesn't matter if you are doing a spin class, if you are doing a 20-minute online workout, if you are doing a strength and conditioning class at my gym or any other gym, like that doesn't matter. What matters is that you are engaging in the fitness. And then once you have engaged in fitness, so that way it is a non-negotiable habit, then we can kind of fine tune things, right? But we have to make sure that we are actively engaging in that behavior. So the exercise would be putting it on the schedule for sure. But at the bare minimum, I think that walking is the greatest exercise of all time. And I shouldn't say every single person because I can't paint with that broad brush, but most of us can walk. Right.
Yeah.
And most of us can schedule 20 minutes to go for a walk. And the amount of mental clarity that you can achieve just from walking for 20 minutes, or the time that you can take to, instead of, doom scrolling on Instagram in your off period, you say, actually, I'm going to do a 20-minute walk and I'm going to listen to that podcast that I really wanted to listen to. And you can not only, fill up your exercise cup, but also fill up your content consumption at the same time. That's tremendous. What I've been doing lately is a 30-minute walk without any sort of external stimulation. So I'm just alone with this crazy brain of mine. And the amount of, clarity that I get in decision making, or the amount of, just relief that I feel from not being overly stimulated by notification after notification after notification after email, like it is phenomenal. So if at the bare minimum, we can all walk, and that will be a tremendous boost for everyone. Like, so many people these days have either Apple Watches or Garmin's or whatever, the step trackers, right? Aim for 10,000 steps. It's probably pretty achievable for most band directors, especially in like junior high and high school who are bouncing around all the time. But, look back at your average, say, oh, I've averaged, 8,500 steps. Okay, take it to 10,000. Oh, I've averaged 10,000. Cool. Take it to 12,500. Okay, cool. It's October, so you're going to be in marching band season. You're doing a ton of stuff. You're going to get those, 20,000, 30,000 step days. Awesome. Let's see how high we can take that. On your off days, let's also continue to walk. So intentional walks is probably the best exercise that I can recommend before we start doing all the strength training.
Right. Sure. I think you're spot on here. Like, and I'll say from just my experience, Teresa and I, we did 75 hard a couple of years ago, and you have to do 2 workouts a day. Well, we made one of them a walk.
Gross.
I know, it's terrible. But we decided, can we do this? And that was really the challenge, is can we be consistent doing this? But one of the things we chose is just, we're going to take a walk, and it has to be 45 minutes. So it was a 45-minute walk. We don't do that anymore, but we do walk almost every day. Sometimes our schedule does take that away, but I will tell you, the times that we do, it's a time that she and I can talk, which is kind of nice. Like, there's no distractions. We get to talk, but a lot of the things that we talk out are just what you said. We're getting mental clarity on things. We're talking about ideas, but I always feel refreshed after our walks. And there's been days when she's not home and I'm like, I'm going by myself. And then it's just me thinking, I'm going through what's in my brain, but I get back and I'm like, I accomplished things that I wouldn't have otherwise, sitting in my chair scrolling or whatever. So I love that.
I have yet to take a walk or do a workout, and I've been like, ugh, waste of time. Right? Like, meanwhile, every single time I'm sitting on my butt and then I'm scrolling and all of a sudden an hour goes by, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you could, that time could have been so much better used. And, we educators teach that often, is like, how are you using your time? Are you using your time wisely? Well, like, are you using your time wisely? If you do want some downtime to scroll and just do whatever, like, cool. Do you want to budget an hour? Awesome. Cut that to 30 minutes and spend the other 30 minutes walking. Like, it'll be phenomenal for everything.
I love the idea of budgeting time. Like, you said intentionality, but that idea of budgeting time is, we could dig into that. But yeah, go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, everybody has time. Everyone has the
1000%.
time to do it. I mean, I exercise about an hour a day, and
Okay,
I
no
like
need to
to
brag.
turn.
No need to brag.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm clear.
let's calm it down.
But I turn my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I listen to music that I don't know, or that's what I do. It helps me calm. Like I just need calm in my life. Maybe that's what it is. I just need some calm, and that helps. And then afterwards, I can approach the rest of the day with a bit more clarity and being grounded, right? But
Yeah.
even, and I did bring up the point about the hour every day part because it's going to lead to my upcoming question. Because even though you exercise, you can ruin it if you don't have proper nutrition. And I've learned that the hard way. I'm like, I'm going to get on the treadmill and I'm going to do this for
Haven't
an
we
hour.
all?
And then the scale keeps going up and up. I'm like, what the heck? And so it's,
Yeah.
I mean, so oftentimes band directors, we have to eat on the run. Like I used to have 20 minutes for lunch when I was teaching public school. I would get
Right.
in my car and drive to Subway. I would just shove down a foot-long sandwich in 6 minutes, and then I would teach beginning to class.
Right.
Like you do.
Right.
Slap on the feedback. Let's go.
Just might as well just tape it on myself. But so, do you have any suggestions about proper nutrition or balanced meals to help with all of this, both in terms of the exercise part, but just in terms of just being healthy?
Yeah. So I want to come back to that word intentionality, right?
Mhm.
Because I think so much of our nutrition is something that we do phenomenally well. Like my wife runs our nutrition coaching program. We've helped, hundreds of people lose tens of thousands of pounds. And I should say thousands of people lose tens of thousands of pounds. And it all comes back to preparation. Right. And
Mhm.
again, if we want to think about like the number one priority in our life, which is us, our number, like we are the number one priority, because if we're not well, we can't help anyone else. Right. And I like people to think about that. Like I talk to moms and dads all the time. I'm like, cool, you die for your kids, but like, would you live for them? Awesome. Like if we are band directors, like the band program is the number one priority. Is it? Because if you're not your best self, you can't help that band program be even better. Right.
That's very true.
And so intentionality with our own nutrition is phenomenally important. And I think a lot of what it comes down to is just, making sure that we are preparing a little bit, or having the mindset going into a situation where we are going into Subway or going into X restaurant that we know we can grab something fast and go on the way, that there are other options besides the option that tastes the best in the moment but feels the worst on the inside. Right?
Yep.
Like if you go into Subway, you can get a 12-inch flatbread chicken breast with light sauces and be good to go. And then all of a sudden you have had a protein rich meal, low fat, low carbs, that is going to help you feel good, not feel like you're crashing, and you'll actually be fueled for the rest of the day. So if we are looking at just a like pure nutrition standpoint of things, like prioritizing protein is probably the most important thing we can do. Like the, average American is so underfed on protein and overfed on carbs and fats.
Yeah.
Because it's not the carbs, it's the carbs and fat combination, right? Because that is magic. I don't know if you've had an Oreo, right? But like
the churro Oreos are my favorite.
come on. Like a grandma's chocolate chip cookies, that's not carbs, that's carbs and fat.
Yeah.
Right. And that magical combination, that hypercaloric combination, you look at like a small chocolate chip cookie, or you look at 3 Oreos and you're like, how the hell is that 200 calories?
Right.
Oh, yeah. Meanwhile, 200 calories of chicken is, a chicken breast the size of your hand. And the chicken breast the size of your hand, or 3 Oreos, calorically they're equal. But what do you think is going to actually make you feel better throughout the day? Right.
Yeah.
And I like telling people, feeling better throughout the day, not in the moment, because let's be real, the Oreos make you feel better in the moment. Like they're so damn delicious.
They taste better than chicken
tasty.
sometimes.
They taste a lot better than chicken. That's why whenever
Yeah.
I get a little tipsy, I don't order chicken breast. I order other things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
And so, having that intentionality and that identity of no, I eat well whenever I'm on the run. Right? Just
Right.
telling yourself that narrative that we tell ourselves, like, I actually eat well on the run. The more you tell yourself that you're a healthy person and that you're an exercise person and that you eat well as you're going from A to B and B to C, the more good decision making you're going to have. I shouldn't say good decision making. I should say the more goal aligned decision making you're going to make.
Yeah,
right?
It's
Because I can go to Taco Bell and get a better, healthier meal than I can at some mom and pop restaurants, because I'll go in, I'll order chicken breast over lettuce with pico de gallo and salsa, and boom, all of a sudden I have a high protein, low carb, low fat meal, and I'm ready to rock.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
It's, so I want to ask you a question here, because I mean, sometimes two questions actually.
I will only allow one.
I'll ask the other.
I'm in charge here. No, I'm just kidding.
Are
so, no, not at all. That would be Teresa and Jessica. They're in the background.
Yes.
My question is, so we talked about treats. I mean, like we do love Oreos, but do you have like a strategy for, okay, like, can we have one? Can we have a half? How do we fit that in? Because I mean, sometimes you need a little sweet something.
Yeah.
And I don't know, what are your, because like, I hate to say like, you can't ever have sugar. You can't ever, but is there a way to moderate it?
Because it isn't realistic. It isn't realistic.
It's not realistic. It's not sustainable. Right. I mean, like, David, whenever you and Teresa did 75 hard, like, how often were you thinking about, having a good glass of bourbon and having your, nice, delicious treat that you might want?
Every minute.
Like,
no, giving up the alcohol part was a tough thing for me, because I like to have bourbon
super
at the end
tough.
of the day.
Yeah, of course we do. It's a ritual. It's a ritual for you. And so, like, I like to say that, like, nothing is off limits, right? Absolutely nothing is off limits. We need to enjoy the quality, not the quantity. Right. And as soon as I tell people, whenever they come in for a nutrition consult or we're talking about their nutrition, whenever I go, no, you can have Oreos, all good. They go,
yeah.
Wait, what? What do you mean? I go, yeah, you just can't have a whole bag after you've starved yourself for a week.
That's a good point.
Because as soon as we start saying, like, you can't have this, that's all you're going to think about. Right. Like, as soon as you get, like, I have a gray F-150, and I was like, no one has a gray F-150. And then as soon as I got a gray F-150, I was like, everyone has a gray F-150.
Exactly.
As soon as I think I'm not going to have any more carbs, all I smell is bread. By putting these extreme limits on ourselves nutritionally, we'll never be able to be consistent, sustainable for the long term, because you are engaging in, I hate, using dramatic terms like disordered behavior, but also a little disordered behavior, because there's nothing wrong with a few Oreos.
Right. Like, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I remember talking to a nutritionist a couple years ago, and she was saying, after the first and second bite, are you receiving the same pleasure in your brain on the third bite as you did the first? And if the answer is no, stop eating it.
That's it.
Now,
but the problem
I
is,
do think about that a lot, right? So I'm like, oh, this tasty Oreo, delicious. The second one, still pretty good. The third one, like, I don't really need it.
Well, and that's obviously spoken like someone from the north who doesn't have, like, chips and queso in front of you at all times. Like,
that's what I was gonna. This is what I was gonna say a second ago. So I hate to go back to 75 hard. I wouldn't redo 75 hard, but I learned a lot from it. So we would go out to dinner, but we would go to a Mexican restaurant and we would share chicken fajitas. I started selecting corn tortillas, because tortillas.
Chicken fajitas is the ultimate meal.
Is it really?
It's incredible.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
1,000%. Whenever I lost, so for the listeners at home, I had at one point lost 68 pounds, and I did it by eating 9 tacos a day. Chicken fajitas. Chicken fajitas. Chicken fajita tacos for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Body by tacos.
Well, I was looking at that time, like, kind of going, okay, into this meal, I was keeping track of what I was eating on 75 hard, more than I ever had. Like, what am I having to eat every single day? And that meal, like, we could go out to eat. We'd share chicken fajitas for $20, so it's $10 a person. But here's where the real kicker came in, because they bring out that chips. So I would literally count out 10 chips, put them on the
Mhm.
plate, and then push that away.
Yep.
And I would break a chip in half because I wanted salsa. Like, I'm not gonna eat the whole chip because I want to make this last. But I still do that now. I keep track of how many chips I've had because I started thinking, like, how many times do I go to my pantry and open up an entire bag of chips and eat it? Never.
Yep.
But I do that at a Mexican restaurant 3 times over. I was like, okay,
Absolutely.
I have to find a different habit. And so I do go to a restaurant and I go, like, I'm having 3 of those. Like, or,
Yeah.
whatever. I'm choosing what I'm going to have there.
Well, and
I
I
don't know. It retrained my brain, honestly.
Yeah, and I liked having people think about nutrition like we think about our money, right? Like some people might have heard what you just said and go, "Oh my God, poor David. He is,
Yeah.
he is going through it. That guy is, he is
so true.
just too obsessed with his food." And I go, "Do you want to save for retirement? Like, do you want to know what
Mm.
your financial status is? Like, okay, cool. You track your income, you track your expenses. Well, our expenses are our exercise and our income is the stuff we shove in our mouths. And if we are not tracking that,
Interesting.
if we are not aware of what's going on, good luck.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I mean,
That's
then
a
all of a
genius
sudden,
analogy.
It
then all of a
really
sudden,
is.
then all of a sudden 3 years go by and you go, what the hell? I put on 30
Yeah.
pounds.
Well, and I think there's probably a small side discussion here about, when you're younger, you're not thinking so much about retirement.
Well,
You're not
yeah.
thinking about the tests they're going to run on you when you're 50.
Mhm.
Like, we're talking about health and
or even like 35 or 30 when you start getting your blood panels and all of a sudden you go, ooh,
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
tequila Tuesdays every Tuesday for 10 years in a row might not have been the best idea.
It's catching
We
up.
all look great, though. Come on, we're all the
Oh,
best.
fantastic.
We are phenomenal. Okay.
Yeah.
But also part of this, Clark, is what I've come to realize is so difficult. Is portion size,
Mhm.
right? Like having to measure that has been. Now I do have an app. I don't want to advertise for it, but I find that very helpful for me. That I kind of log it all in there, and it'll tell me portion sizes. And I'm always surprised, going, "Oh, I would have thought if I was doing this by myself at the beginning, and now I can kind of sort of do it. But at the time, I'm like, I had no idea that I was eating
It makes a huge
this.
difference.
And I just ate like today I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I love that. But
did you log the peanut butter?
I did. I measured
It's the saddest thing in the world.
It
is.
2
Peanut butter is
tablespoons,
so
190
high.
calories, right?
Yeah.
And I
It's
measured
terrible.
the whole thing, and the strawberry jelly, which is natural, so it has, it's all the stuff.
Yeah.
Man, I just had 700 calories
Yep.
in
Yeah.
a little sandwich, but I prepared for it, right? So
Yeah.
but you got to do it. But I'm just like, what is this?
There's a reason why in drum corps, like it's like PB&J, it's the best because it's like it's so hypercaloric. It's so hypercaloric. And like there's 2 things that people really should measure at some point to understand portion control, and that is peanut butter and cereal.
Yeah,
like
cereal.
Actually measure peanut butter and cereal, you'll be like, okay, I understand.
I love eating those together.
I understand what's going on now. Right? Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, kind of going back to, David as well, of like, oh, he's tracking the stuff and we're tracking our finances. Like, yeah, that's what we have to do. And I think you have to spend that little, like the first time you actually confront your finances, it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right. It's really, really uncomfortable. And like, I want people to know that when it comes to fitness, nutrition, health, and wellness and whatnot, like I am the least judgmental person of all time because like I'm open for anything and everything, like totally, except 75 hard. But I'm open for most anything and everything. And so like, you're not going to tell me like things that you do that I haven't heard before. But what we all need to do for a period of time is learn how to weigh and measure and track our food. So that way we now have that understanding. We now have that experience. We now have that evidence of like what this actually is. Because the number one reason why people think that they are quote unquote eating well, but still gaining weight is because they are underreporting how much food they are actually eating. Right. It's like whenever I go to the grocery store these days and I go, this will be about $200. And then $350 later, I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Oof. Or I like to use the speedometer as another analogy. Of course, we're all educators. We use analogies all the time. Like you don't have to use the speedometer in your car, to make sure that you're going the speed limit. But like using that tool is pretty helpful to make sure you don't get a ticket and to make sure that you're staying safe. Right.
Yep.
And think of the ticket as like a, oh, I went to the doctor and all of a sudden I'm 30 pounds up, like using the tools you have to like really understand what you have going on, like vital, absolutely vital.
And also too, this doesn't just have to do with weight. I
Nope.
mean,
not at all.
It can be sodium intake. It can be high cholesterol. It can be diabetes. I mean, it's so many things, right?
Yeah.
Oh, 1,000%. And as much as I love the music education community, is it the healthiest, like at large?
Right.
Probably not. And so, there's a lot of reasons for that. And a lot of those reasons are very, very noble, like very noble reasons. We are trying to work as hard as we can for our kids, for our program, for our legacy, for, to build our careers, to do everything. But at the end of the day, we end up sacrificing the asset, the only asset that matters, which is ourselves. And if we are not taking care of the number one thing, which is, the asset ourselves, we are hurting our career by not taking care of ourselves.
Right. Man, I'll tell you, just for our listeners, I have a scale, like a little kitchen scale that I use, and
food scale.
I use it for various things. So like, I love chili, like we'll make chili. And I tried chicken and I don't like it. So we went with a real lean beef now, like a lean ground, like
what
97.3
percentage?
or 97.3,
yeah.
Anything above that. And I didn't always do that. And I'll tell you, I did because my doctor, last time I was in, was like, your cholesterol's a little higher than it ought to be. And I wasn't even paying attention, like how much 80-20 meat I was eating. So I started looking at that. Well, we make one pot of chili and I have it 4 times during the week.
Yep.
That's a lot. So that one switch made a big difference. But I like Fritos in my chili. I will literally look at it says on the package that I think it's like 28 grams equals. I will get a little container.
28 grams is the magic serving size for anything that is like like everything you look at is all 20. And by the way, John, is the app that you use MyFitnessPal?
No.
Oh, never mind.
Well, Teresa uses that. You use Noom, right, John?
I use Noom.
Yeah, so I use Noom as well,
Very good.
which helped me think a lot about the kinds of calories I'm taking into my body. You know, green foods versus like there's different things in that app. But
sure,
even with so I told myself I'm having these Fritos, but I'm not just leaving them out on the counter and have as many as I want. I'm measuring 28 grams. I put them in the chili, and that's that. I put the bag away because if I leave the bag on the counter, I'll be honest with you, I'm having more than 28 grams.
That sounds very intentional rather than reactive.
I've had to be intentional, and the same thing. Like I will have, like I love chocolate covered almonds. But I get dark chocolate, which is a little bit better, and I'll have 2 of them. Like that's for the day. I get 2 chocolate almonds, and it's like my little tasty dessert. But if I leave it out, like in sight, I'll eat all of them. So there's something about that. I don't know how that clicks for me, but maybe it'll help others. I don't know.
I think it's because you're a pretty neurotic person in general, but for most people, but really, all jokes aside, what it really came down to is you were like, oh no, I want to make a change and I'm going to do it.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Like
that's what it is.
You've got to put your mind to it, and it sucks. Like it's not easy, but every single day, right? It's just like anything else.
Well, and I'll tell you, we've talked a little bit about alcohol, but I do the same thing with alcohol. So I do like bourbon, but it's measured. I know exactly. So I have a glass that I use, and I know I use a big cube of ice. I know exactly where on that glass to fill to be 1.5 ounces. Boom. That's what it is. Because if you're just pouring in, like, I don't know, that's more or less, it's not the same. But then again, I can track it. I can be aware of what I'm having.
And I would say that you have a system set up to build your success. Right? Like I think most band directors have a system set up to make sure that their rehearsals are successful.
Absolutely.
Right? We go through X, we go through this, we go through that, and then we do this, and then boom, 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 we're good to go.
Yeah.
Why don't you have systems set up in your own home?
So
right.
That's a good point.
It's really important, and then also too, maybe we can change the subject slightly, but still related about posture and mobility issues. Right. Since even me sitting at this desk, I see myself getting lower and lower. Right.
Right.
And I am hypersensitive about my posture because I don't want to be an 80-year-old like with the hunting, like it's inevitable. And I think about it all the time anyway.
Well, no, it's not inevitable.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that.
It's not inevitable.
Will you tell us about that and then how to fix it?
Yeah. Get stronger right now. Right? Like build muscle and get stronger right now. Like osteoporosis, which is more commonly known in women than men, but it is a real thing. Like that's that hunchback that you were talking about that you see with a lot of older people. That is a distinct lack of bone density and upper body pulling strength. Pulling meaning pulling something towards you, right? Like if you've ever seen something at the gym, like a rowing machine, pull up, any sort of anything where you are actively pulling, because when you actively pull, you are retracting your scapulas. Like right now, everyone, even if you're listening at home, do this. Shrug your shoulders up, pull your shoulders back, pull your shoulders down. You have just retracted your scapulas, and you have you have in essence built your better posture. Right. So if that's going to be the right posture, why are we not constantly working our scapular retraction? Right. Like if you pinch your shoulder blades together right now, if you try and think like, okay, I'm going to drop a pencil between my shoulder blades, I need to squeeze them. Right. That scapular retraction, that's probably the number one thing for posture. Right. Which means we got to pull weights. We got to pull weights, or we have to actively think about that all the time. So great exercises for those that might have a gym would be like single arm dumbbell rows, ring rows or TRX rows, or a rowing machine, even lat pull downs. Any sort of pulling motion is going to help your posture. And anyone who you have seen with the, decently large humpback, or like if you pat them on the back, you're like, ooh, just smacked your spine. Like, sorry about that. That's from a distinct lack of muscle in the upper body, in the upper backside, right? So if you are, freaking out about your posture, let's start training your back more, because that's going to be a huge indicator of how your posture is going to be in the tail end of life.
Right.
Any other thoughts about like any other kind of motion industry or, motion injuries, like a rotator cuff or any other things?
Conductors, and I see that a lot in conductors.
Yeah. So this is where like a lot of people end up not liking me, because I don't get as specific as, X influencer might say, but like we just all need to get stronger, like period, in all aspects of things. Like, stronger people are harder to kill. Yes. Stronger people are also harder to injure, which is, the step before killing. Right. And so like making sure that we are stronger in every aspect of our life. So like if you're trying to design your own fitness program, think push, think pull, think rotate, think carry. Right. Am I pushing stuff? Am I pulling stuff? Am I rotating stuff? Am I carrying stuff? If you are doing all those things, which is what we do every day of our lives, then you're going to be set, right? A baton is not as hard as a 10-pound cable, right? So if you can manhandle a 10-pound cable, you can work through Mahler's second, right? Like you'll be all right.
I can tell you with certainty, the Tide bottle almost killed me once. I was doing an exercise program and I'm like, I find something in the house. I don't know. This Tide bottle feels light. I almost died from a Tide bottle.
Yeah. I mean,
you hold that Tide bottle out for a while. Like,
well, and that's such a great point, John. Cause like, I think a lot of people, they immediately disqualify fitness because they're like, I don't have a gym. I don't have time to do this. I don't have, like, you have your own gym right here. Like you have your body. Guys, gyms shouldn't exist. Like they are such a luxury. Like it's hilarious. Like you do not have to ever step foot in a gym in order to be incredibly healthy. Like for real. Like, do you want, like, everyone, if you're like, I don't know what to do, here's what you do. 3 sets every day. Do 20 squats, 20 push-ups, 20 sit-ups, 20 table rows. I'll link a table row somewhere. But like, if you do that 3 to 4 days a week, okay, you're good. You're going to be in a really, really solid position. Sure. Yeah. Could we do more that's better? Could we optimize that? Yes. But I don't want people thinking that optimization, I don't want them thinking that they have to have a perfect program to be healthy. Like you just have to do something.
Yeah. So, this is a great idea, and maybe you'll go along with this. I would love for you, Clark, to put together like a little kind of base level. Here are a set of exercises that if you do them 3 to 4 times a week, in addition to taking your walk, this is going to help set you up for success. If you're intentional about it.
I will do that
for us.
I will do that immediately once we're done recording, and I will send it over to Jessica, and she can send it out to everyone or put it in the show notes.
Perfect. That is awesome. So, and I want to shift there because we've talked about working out, we've talked about intentionality, we've talked about nutrition. We haven't talked about hydration. And I know
the easiest thing.
Yeah. So how important is hydration? Why is it important? Why we hear it all the time, but why?
Yeah. Well, these big walking meat sacks that we have, right? Like they are just all water, right?
Yeah.
They're all your brain is what, like 70% water,
something like that.
So, okay, cool. So like, why would you starve the most important thing? Right. Like every single time you're not drinking water, you are starving your brain of cognition. Right? You're starving your brain of better decision making. You're starving your brain of, controlling your impulses to emotions and controlling your behaviors that you wish to engage in. Right? Yet, I'm fairly convinced that besides gym owners, personal trainers, band directors are the most over caffeinated people on the face of the earth.
That could be true.
If we would just if we would just cut the caffeine in half and swap that for water, we'd be far less anxious and far more productive. And we would handle everything so much better. So much better.
So when you say productive, less anxious, hydration is affecting energy, focus, or the lack thereof, really, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Man. So like the anxiety that a lot of people feel and a lot of band directors feel is like, I have to be everywhere at once. Like I have to go this way, that way, that way. I have to deal with this fire. I have to put out that fire. I have to do all these things. Well, if we can like focus and be, single track oriented and actually get things done, then all those other fires will get put out, and they'll get put out faster because you can put all your energy there, all your energy here, all your energy there. Oh, I have a clinician coming in that I need to focus up. Well, cool. Instead of slamming another large coffee before that clinic, I'm going to slam 30 ounces of water. Awesome. I'm ready to rock now.
Yeah.
It's, man, like the hydration thing is such a free, it is so free. Yeah.
And it goes back to intentionality, like you said at the beginning. If you cut half, like, okay, instead of having however many cups of coffee, but you add water, it's a pretty simple change if you're intentional about it. Mm-hmm. And it reminded me of Teresa, my wife Teresa, like she deals with anxiety off and on, and not too long ago, I would say about a month ago, she just cut out caffeine. She's like, I'm just going to stop drinking. She loves coffee though. So she switched to decaf because she loves the taste. She loves the experience of it, like the hot. I'm not like a hot drink kind of person, but she loves
the ritual. She likes the ritual.
Yeah, there's something about that. Yeah. But her anxiety levels have changed immensely. And then the real kicker is that she decided one day, like, okay, she went to Starbucks and she got a big coffee, like or whatever, Venti, whatever the things are, and the anxiety was much more like it was pronounced that day. Yeah. Which, just that realization of how caffeine can affect you, but on the flip side, how hydration can really create more focus, more energy, less anxiety. Like we should embrace that. Like I can tell she's probably in the other room shaking her head at me because I don't drink enough water. I don't.
Right. But you are a massive hypocrite. Massive hypocrite is really what we're hearing. I'm sorry,
friends.
No, I like to think about it like this whenever I'm trying to help people make a change is like caffeine and alcohol should be classified as addictive drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're right.
They are the ones that we lace ourselves with all the time. And this is the cycle that happens. We have a very stressful day. We turn to booze because it helps us unwind, right? Mm-hmm. But then you have too much because after one, another one sounds good. And then after two, another two sound good. And then the next morning you wake up because alcohol is terrible for your sleep. You wake up and you're tired, you're foggy, you're groggy. So what do? Bang, bang, bang. There went 3 coffees and a white monster. And then because you had another cup of coffee at 3 p.m., you had an energy drink at 3 p.m. before you had to go to your evening rehearsal. The half-life of caffeine is 6 hours. So by 9 o'clock, whenever you should be winding down, you're still caffeinated. And so what do? You turn to alcohol again. And then, wow, you are just in a vicious cycle that you cannot break of feeling like crap and looking at outside influences to help you feel better. When in reality, if you just cut back the booze, if you cut back the coffee, and you embraced the greatness of water, like you would feel tremendously better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Clark, you were just talking about sleep, and that's the part that we haven't talked about yet. So let's kind of talk about that just a bit, right?
Probably my favorite topic.
Great.
I love talking about sleep.
In our profession, right, there's a lot of early mornings and late nights, and trying to find good quality rest is challenging, right? So how can teachers maximize recovery and manage fatigue with first of all limited sleep, but then two, are there benefits to prioritizing a good night's rest? How much is that, and do you have any suggestions about any of that?
Absolutely. I think that everyone should reframe rest as like rest is productive, right? Rest is the ultimate performance enhancing drug, right? Like I would rather get 2 hours extra of sleep than drink, 2 other cups of coffee, right? Rest is the most important thing, right? But how do we do that? I think that one of the most important things we can do is try, and I know I'm about to get a lot of eye rolls, is try to separate work from home as much as possible, right? And the way that works might mean like if a band director says, hey, I'm leaving the school at 6, but I'm going to get home and I'm going to do this work. No, stay there, get it done, then go home and engage in rest, right? Your house is not a place of work if you're a band director, right? I think your house is a place of rest. It is a temple that you should protect, right? Is that realistic for a lot of people? I think yes. I'd like to challenge that, narrative that people can't not do stuff at home. Will it take a lot of intentionality and a lot of like internal struggle to actually get there? It's going to be hard, right? But I think that, not opening up your laptop at home, creating those actual boundaries, like understanding that there's probably not an emergency. Even if you think it's an emergency, it's probably not an emergency. Like the next day you can do it. Like in the fitness world, like at Yellow Rose, we have a, clear-cut communication channel. Like there's never such thing as a fitness emergency, right? Like if someone can wait another day before they get their session in, like it's going to be fine, right? Like this culture of immediacy, especially with band directors, because we like to get stuff done really, really quick. And I say we, because again, I was in that world, right? We like to get stuff done really, 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 really fast. And that really, really fast mentality serves us well to a point until it starts taking away from our rest. And that's not okay, right? So when it comes to our sleep, being able to go home, shut off, turn off, and just be the human that is not the band director will be phenomenal to quality sleep and to restful sleep, rather than, oh shit, I have to go to sleep right now in order to get 6 hours. And then you go, ah, crap, now it's 5:30. Oh no, it's going to be 5 hours. Here comes the coffee tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Like, ugh. Now, practical strategies for more sleep. Like, don't open up your computer once you get home, right? Like these, like, the blue lights, the stimulation, the everything is not helping us sleep, right? It really isn't. But like we just talked about with our caffeine thing, if you can cut off your caffeine intake by noon and then not have any more caffeine, you will be in a very, very good position to go to sleep without needing any outside supplement or stimulus. Right. So like if there's one like actionable thing I think that will help a tremendous amount of people besides working out, right? Because working out is the ultimate positivity catalyst snowball that we can have. If there's one thing that people can do in the band director world, it is cut caffeine off at noon, right? Cut it off. If that means you feel a little slow and sluggish for a few weeks, do it. It's worth it, right? Because so many people don't realize how not good they feel, how bad they feel, because they're not sleeping well.
Yeah.
And the biggest reason why they're not sleeping well, they're over caffeinated, so they get into booze, and then that helps them sleep terribly. Right.
Right. The vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle, but it is a very normal cycle, but it's
Very
vicious,
common.
and you don't have to be a part of it. right?
Yep.
Like you can do your own thing. Other things that help tremendously, and if people haven't tried this before, like don't look at me like I'm a weirdo. It works. Like wear an eye mask so that way you're blacked out, right? You're visually blacked out because our eyelids are probably the thinnest part of skin in our body, and we're very sensitive to light as humans. If you wear an eye mask, you're blacked out. Wear mouth tape so that way you breathe through your nose. How many times do we talk about nasal breathing? Why are we mouth breathing at night? Right? Nasal breathing. I'm telling y'all, I started taping my mouth about 5 years ago. I have never had better sleep in my entire life. You can find documentation of this on social media going all the way back to that. Like mouth taping.
I've never heard of this.
And really?
I haven't. This is the first time.
Okay,
John, have you heard of this?
I don't think so.
Okay, so here's what
I
you're
want
going
to tape John's mouth for other reasons. But
here's what David, here's what you're going to do tonight. Okay. You are going to take a Band-Aid. You're going to take athletic tape. If you have KT tape, I use KT tape every night for this. Cut off a small strip, just tape over your lips. So that way you are not going to open your mouth at night. You will wake up
and it's
feeling
not uncomfortable. You just get used to it.
Not at all. I do it even if I have a stuffy nose. You will wake up feeling more rested and more restored than you ever have before.
Very interesting. Okay.
By breathing,
I'm gonna give this a shot.
This is the thing. This big old John Oliver that I have right here. This is the thing that is designed to oxygenate your body, to bring oxygen to your brain, not your mouth. Right. So if you can nasal breathe all night long, you will feel better. Your snoring will go away. It's just, I mean, it's a cheat. It's a cheat code. It's a cheat code.
I never even thought of that.
And if people get a little freaked out by it, just embrace it. Embrace it.
Gosh, so many great things, Clark. So many great things that we've gone through here. But a lot of this, I could say almost all of it has to do with a mental shift in a way. So
1,000%.
So I'm curious, what are some effective ways to shift the mindset around fitness from really like something we have to do, like it's another to-do on the list for band directors, to something else that we're looking forward to, we can benefit from? Is there, some things little tidbits, like how do we make that mind shift for this more positive outlook?
Yeah, I've touched on it a little bit, and it's more of a identity thing, right? And if you start to we all will say well, I'm a band director, and that immediately goes, okay, cool. I do X, Y, and Z, right? I am a part of this tribe. I do these things. And if we can just tell ourselves no, I'm a healthy person, or I'm a fitness person, or I'm this, all of a sudden you will go out with your other, colleagues and go, well, I'm actually not going to drink tonight. Why aren't you drinking with us? Oh, because I want to sleep really well tonight. Oh, okay, cool. And if they give you hell for that, they're not the people that you need to be spending time with outside of work anyway. Right?
Ouch.
Well, I know. Have you heard of the crabs in a bucket thing?
There's a song about it.
Yeah. Well, if you put crabs in a bucket and you start boiling the water, the top crabs will try and get out. The other crabs will pull them back in. It's people that are projecting their own insecurities to keep you down at their level. So if you are trying to escape that, if you are trying to embrace this new level of, health and wellness, and other people don't like it, those aren't the people to be hanging out with. It's a very good realization to understand if you have friends or if you have drinking buddies. It's a very, very important thing.
That's a good point.
But, back to that, embracing this identity that you are a healthy person, which means you engage in healthy behaviors, kind of bringing it back to the money thing, because that's very, very real for a lot of people. What do wealthy people do? Let's do that. They spend less than what they earn, right? They engage in behaviors that lead to greater wealth. I mean, David, with real estate, real estate investors, they're investing, They're taking risks, they're doing these things. You understand that, right? With health, it's the asset. That investment portfolio is our body. And so we need to actually engage in those behaviors. What do wealthy people do? I want to do that. What do healthy people do? I want to do that. Right. And in a society that is not healthy, objectively not healthy, it means you're not going to be normal.
Right. Yeah, sure.
And that's
But
that's
really,
okay.
And it is okay. That's the
No,
reality. It's okay.
you're already not normal as a band director.
I mean, you're not wrong.
So just
Yeah.
embrace the fact that you're not normal. Just be like, well, I'm going to be a band director and I'm going to be healthy. And then you'll be
Yeah, I
super
gotcha.
weird and everyone will like you. Like, it's going to be cool.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
I love it. This is so helpful.
Yeah.
And for the listeners, I mean, this is all so critical to think about. Clark, we are so thankful of your time. So as we kind of wrap up, we ask a couple questions of all of our guests, and I'll take the first one. Do you have a particular book or books that have inspired you throughout your health journey, throughout your education journey?
Yeah. So the number one book that I recommend, do I have one up here? No, I don't. The number one book that I recommend, because I probably gave it away last week, is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Right.
Yep.
Atomic Habits by James Clear is arguably the most impactful book, self-help read for not only your health, but for your career. Right. Because that book, super easy read. I mean, we're talking a week tops. If you have a third grade reading level like me, like a week, that's all it takes. And, it talks about identity. It talks about what are we doing in order to make sure that we are, achieving the things we want to achieve. And I mean, one of the things that always sticks out to me every time I reread it every year is, the goal isn't to run the marathon. The goal is to become a runner. So looking at input focused things rather than outcome focused things, right? Like if your goal is to, make it to state marching, it's not to make, your goal actually isn't to make it to state marching. Your goal is to do the things each week in order to get to state marching, right? Put in the inputs that will inevitably get the right output. So it's all about inputs versus outputs. So if you haven't yet read Atomic Habits by James Clear, please order it immediately. And if you have read it, reread it, right? That was a really good time sneeze right there, David. Fantastic.
I know. I'm so sorry. Like I had a mute button. I didn't get to it fast enough. Like, oh, there it is. No, I was going to say that it is a fantastic book, and I actually get.
It's so good.
Now I get in my inbox. I get like daily things from.
His 321 email, which is always just like it's a breath of fresh air every week for me, and a really good reminder that okay, don't worry about the outcome. Worry about the input, because we can't control the outcome, but I can for damn sure control the input all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, it comes back to intentionality.
Man, we've talked about some really, really impactful things today. And so I'm thankful for your time. Our last question, this is probably the most important, Clark. I want you to think about it deeply before you answer.
I have a feeling it's not going to be, but let me have it.
Well, I guess it depends on perspective, but what is your favorite time signature?
Okay.
As a gym owner.
Well, probably 4-4, because I can't do much. But I can at least count to 4.
Common time. That is, you just nailed
Common
it.
time. Oh my gosh, I did. Incidentally, I just did that.
Very few people have gotten it right. Very few.
So anyway, Clark, what a wonderful time. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on with us and just sharing, the insights here. They've challenged me, and I hope that, for our listeners as well, like there are things, if we're intentional, there are just things that we can do to, be happier in our jobs, be happier and healthier, which is, that's why we're all here. We want to enjoy what we're doing.
Yeah. And if I can soapbox one more time,
absolutely.
There's no reason for us to have imposter syndrome in 2025. I mean, look at all of the people that are way less qualified than you that are doing way more things, and the reason why they're doing that is because they weren't afraid to do the thing, right? So if you were afraid of looking like an idiot in the gym, you're not an idiot in the gym. I own multiple gyms. I see people that are, like the gym is the most welcoming space in the world. Go to it. Right? It's intimidating, but it's welcoming. Go to it. If you're afraid about saying no to people for, your health and fitness reason, don't say no. Saying no to things that you're not into feels way better than saying yes to things you're not into, right? Like making sure that you are doing stuff that is going to serve you better so that way you can help more people and serve more people. That's the magic. That's what I want you to do. That's what I want you to do.
Love it. So, well, thank you, Clark, for being on. We appreciate your time. We appreciate all the expertise, and that's it. We love it.
All right.
Thanks, Clark.
Appreciate
Good to see
y'all.
you, man.
Love y'all.
Appreciate
So
it.
good to see y'all.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Common Time Podcast. Don't forget to follow us on social media, and we'd love it if you shared with your friends as well. We'll see you next time, but until then, keep making music and keep making a difference.